Hello and welcome to Engine Adventures. Today we've got the 2021 Dodge Durango SRT Hellcat. So I have just been going over the RT Tow and Go, making the video and story for that one, and they actually used a lot of the same features in the SRT, both the 392 and the Hellcat, and in that RT Tow and Go. So kind of cool. This thing is just a regular Durango with beefed up suspension, which means a lot better suspension mounting, and then the suspension itself. And of course the Hellcat engine was 710 horsepower and 645 foot-pounds of torque in this case. Anyway, it's got a lot of really nice features. I was a little surprised the tires aren't as wide. For 710 horsepower you get 295s front and rear. It is all-wheel drive, but still I found it's hard to accelerate at the limit on this thing without spinning the tires, which of course 710 horsepower will do that to you. But the Mercedes with its 600 horsepower, both of those SUVs had 325 wide rear tires instead of 295s. So anyway, this thing's incredible. I get about 14-15 miles per gallon if I don't play around. My actual average is just over 11 during the time that I've had it, but that includes a lot of 0 to 60s and doing a few donuts and whatever, just playing around with it a bit. So if you're not driving crazy, you'll get 14-15 miles per gallon, which for 710 horsepower is not too bad at all. The hood is functional, and we'll go ahead and take a look under it in just a minute, but these vents are functional, intake and cooling vents there. I have the key on, so that's why it's whining, but there's your supercharger right on top. That's your pulley for it. And all of these have like a slight, I don't know, there's a slight metallic sound as it idles. It's kind of like a squeak or whatever. As it up idles, you don't hear it anymore, but just at a regular idle, and I think that has to do with something with the supercharger, as I've heard it on all the Hellcat engines I've tested. So anyway, it's packed in there pretty tight. There's not a lot of room with how tall the supercharger is on top of the engine and all that. Not a ton of extra room in this one, but obviously Dodge makes it work. So it's actually very, very comfortable in here. Can't get my screen to show up. There we go. Very comfortable. Gives you tons of information. So right now I have the oil temp up, but you can go through and show all the information, a bunch of vital information if you want. It also has these SRT pages. It'll show your 0 to 60 times. You can see my best 3.8. And like I said, I just can't get the tires to hook up super well, so I can't get down to their 3.5 time, but I think if I had a good connection I'd be able to. It also has this press OK to view active diagnostic codes, and I had the check engine light come in on me for, I don't know, just a little bit, and I ran this thing a couple times with the engine on, with the engine off, whatever. It never showed me any code. Plugged in my OBD2 reader to it and got some ABS code that I cleared and never had an issue with it after that. So I don't know if something got confused with the sensor or whatever, but it works now. So, and that diagnostic code never showed what was wrong. The check engine light is on, and I've done this with the engine running. It's not currently running because I'm going to clear it. And it also says right here, press OK to view active diagnostic codes. So let's do that and see what it says. There are no diagnostic codes. So then I have an OBD2 reader hooked up, and right there, I don't know how well that's focusing, but anyway, invalid data received from the anti-lock brake system control module. So I don't know what this diagnostic codes reads, but it seems like it doesn't really take care of the check engine light. So it would also not remote start this morning, and I think it might be because of that. Up here, wireless charging, and I like having physical buttons for things like the seat heater and the climate control and the radio, so that works out really nice. And then on the screen, and we're getting a ton of reflection, but anyway, those are all the different drive modes. You have track, sport, auto, snow, tow mode, and custom. And in track mode, you can turn off electronic stability control. In the other modes, all you can do is turn off traction control. So to turn off the electronic stability control, you have to hold that down for quite a while. And then of course, when you're in track mode, it reduces your stability control anyway, and sport mode, and then there's like the street mode, the auto. If you turn off the eco, then everything's on street. Turn the eco back on. That's how I drove most of the time, and it was kind of interesting. You can definitely feel a big power difference between eco and sport. I think eco kind of limits you to obviously get better gas mileage, and I was surprised for the first day I had it. I'm like, why is it not accelerating as much as I thought it would when I'm on the freeway? I thought it'd be real easy to go from like 60 to 80 or whatever, and it's because I was in eco mode. So once I switched it over to sport, it was definitely a lot quicker at that. And then snow mode locks your 50-50 or your all-wheel drive system 50-50 split front rear. Track mode something like 75 to the rear, 25 to the front. I don't know the exact number there, but it's close to that. And then sport mode will be similar. So, and then in custom, of course, you can just go over here and you can set it to whatever you want it to be. All right, these seats, really quite comfortable. They have the SRT logo, good amount of side bolstering that's not adjustable. It does have a lumbar support on both sides. It's adjustable up, down, and sorry, in and out, up and down. And we can take a look at the window sticker up here. It does have some weird color trim stuff. I don't know what this is supposed to be, but kind of an interesting color on that plastic. And I don't have a full-on Monroney for it. I do have a kind of like a, I don't know, a pricing sheet that Dodge gave me. So this particular one is base price $80,000, and that's for all the SRT Hellcats, and then it has a bunch of options. The leather seats are $1,500, technology group with the advanced brake assist, lane departure warning, full speed forward collision, and adaptive cruise control. That one's $2,300. The rear seat entertainment, we'll take a look at that. That's $2,000. And then the premium interior group with the suede headliner, premium instrument panel, forged carbon fiber accents is another $2,495. And then the red seat belts are, let's see, $95. And the second row console, $595. Harman Kardon sound, $995, and the blind spot and cross path detection, $495, for a total of $93,150. But for $80,000, you're actually very well equipped. So there is definitely, you know, a lot of things you can upgrade, but at that $80,000 price, it's not bad at all. A few things I need to know on the outside are those front brakes, 15.7 inches and 1.42 inches wide. They're two-piece with vane vented and slotted, and 6-piston calipers. On the rear, they're 13.78 inches and they're vented 4-piston. So huge brakes on this thing. And then of course the SRT tuned suspension, and that's all beefed up with the dampers that adjust depending on what setting you have it in here. So sorry, the suspension right there, depending on what mode you're in, it'll be really stiff or kind of stiff. So even in the softest setting here in auto, where it goes to the street mode on the suspension, it's still a fairly stiff ride. Definitely a lot stiffer than any of the non-SRT Durangos, and the RT Tow and Go has the same suspension. So other than those, you'll get a lot softer suspension in like the Citadel or the GT or even the regular RT. But in these SRT ones, you get a really stiff suspension even when it's in street mode. This one does not have a sunroof, which I like better. You get the controls back there for the middle row and rear seats, and sunglass holder. My sunglasses barely fit. If I really force them in there, but it takes a little bit of work. And then the center console, pretty small, but it has the DVD player, Blu-ray player for the rear seats. So let's go ahead and climb into the rear seats. Sorry, this is middle row seats, not the rear. It does have the screens here with HDMI ports on either side. There is one remote that is shared between the two of them, right there. And you get this center console, which has a power port down inside of it. There are also two power ports here, the 115 volt outlet, and heated seats here. The engine's not on, so it won't let me turn those on. With that entertainment package, you get the headsets as well. This also has a button here on the back where you can fold it forward, but when you fold the seats down, it creates more of a flat surface rather than having the high center armrest. And on the third row, let me go raise it up first. Let's fold this. So you can see that that sits higher. And when you flip it over, it actually sits a little bit lower, but it lets you get big flat items in there, no problem. So maybe we can raise that up. Yeah, there we go. You pull this lever to rotate the seat forward, and so I fit back here. All three rows I can fit behind me, but it is a little tight. So I'm 5'10". If you're taller than me and sitting in the driver's seat, it's gonna make this seat a little bit tighter. And then of course, if you're taller than me, you won't fit in the third row, but it's not too bad back here. It's for short trips. Adults would be no problem at all. Long trips, kids would be just fine. So that's this side to fold the seat, pull the handle. There you go. So it's pretty long. You can probably, it's probably 7 feet, and it's not quite 4 feet wide here either. So you can't quite get a full sheet of plywood or whatever in there. And there are no charge ports for the third row besides the one inside of that center console. And then you have a 12 volt right there that would be easy to reach from the third row. A little bit of storage under here, and underneath that cover there is the jack and the tools for changing tires. And then back here, all the SRT Durangos and the RT Tow and Go are rated to tow 8,700 pounds. So underneath that is the trailer hitch. And to close it, button's there. Something to know on all Durangos is the glass doesn't open. And I think any SUV should have that glass open separately, but as far as I know, there's no way to do that. So when you're loading cargo in, you can't load stuff up against the tailgate, because when you open it, it'll all fall out. And even getting it closed while you're loading stuff in, it kind of reduces the useful space there, especially when you have all three rows up. You don't have a ton of space behind the third row. You need to be able to load stuff in and stack it up against the back door. So that is an issue that all the Durangos have. I wish Dodge would fix that. Okay, now we'll do a 0 to 60. And I am gonna brake torque it. .9. Cruising on the freeway, this thing is pretty quiet, and especially with the third row up. Right now it's down, so there's a tiny bit more road noise from the rear, but you get a little wind noise, a little bit of exhaust, but nothing too crazy. 8th gear, 80 miles an hour, we are at 2200 RPM. It just cruises no problem. You never really have to downshift. There's so much torque in this thing. And yeah, smooth riding overall. I mean, for the freeway, where generally you don't have large bumps, it does great. On the side streets with the bigger potholes and stuff like that, yeah, the suspension can get a little stiff even in the softest mode. So I mean, cruising on the freeway even in the sport mode, not too bad. Auto is obviously better, and even here on cement, the expansion joints don't upset it at all as you can sometimes get in the 3/4 ton or 1 ton trucks, where those expansive joints line up and the truck kind of bounces as it goes along. You don't get any of that in this vehicle. So the Durango does really quite well for cruising down the highway. The only thing I don't know is what if someone's sitting in the 3rd row, that exhaust, I don't know if it's too loud. I imagine it's not when you're just cruising, but if you were towing, I notice especially in the RT that it hangs out in like 5th gear instead of 8th gear, so you get a lot more exhaust noise and a little bit of droning. I didn't tow with this one, so I can't speak to that. And as far as other towing stuff goes though, I can say, because the RT had the same suspension setup, that the Durango will tow pretty darn well. It's stable and composed. Here we are at the S-curves. I am in track mode, and we do have a car here, so we gotta stay in our own lane. But I'm surprised at how well this thing grips. I got on throttle a little early there, so it started to understeer, but grips extremely well in the corners. No body lean at all, it seems like. It just stays flat. Thank you for watching Engine Adventures review of this 2021 Dodge Durango SRT Hellcat. This thing is a beast, the fastest vehicle I've ever driven with the ratings, as at least 0 to 60 of 3.5. I got 3.8 in it. I did get 3.7 on a Mercedes GLE 63, but with this thing, it is ridiculously powerful. It's a little bigger than that GLE was, and it just hauls. It goes real fast. And the other thing about it is the torque with the supercharger. You get a lot more power down low, and it pulls hard right down, you know, from low RPM, 1000 RPM or whatever. It'll start pulling hard right away. Very cool. Fun to drive engine. Fun to drive overall, except it is a little stiff as a family car. My wife doesn't like riding in it as much because it's so stiff, all the little bumps and stuff, even in the normal auto mode. And then when you go into track mode, it gets really stiff. So other than that though, this thing has been amazing. Everyone loved the seats. They're really comfortable. And even so, my wife's pretty small, to larger people had no problem in these seats. It was comfortable for everyone, and just a great vehicle overall. If you liked what you saw, be sure to subscribe, give me the thumbs up, and comment down below with any questions or comments you may have. And then of course, if you give me a thumbs down, be sure to comment and let me know why. Thanks for watching. Have a great day.